Hey guys, Combi Creep 94 here, and I'm going to be bringing you another smite guide. This one will be on Ao Kuang, the Dragon King of the Yellow Seas. Ao Kuang is a ranged mage who relies on magical damage, and in my opinion is best played in the middle lane. In fact, in my opinion, he's one of the best middlers out there. He's very capable of pushing up to the enemy turret right from the first creep wave. Now let's take a look at Ao Kuang's starting items. The first item I buy is 2 stacks of Chronos Pendant. I do this because not only does it give you magical power, but it gives you MP5. Enough in fact that you won't need to buy Meditate and you'll be fine for sustainability. For my consumable, I buy 2 health potions because as a mage you're going to take more damage from hits and will need the healing. Now let's take a look at Ao Kuang's abilities. His first ability is Squall. It's a long-range skill shot that damages and slows all enemy minions and players within a small radius. Squall's best uses are to slow someone setting up your ultimate or making them spend more time in your storm. But the best use for Squall is to help out a friendly player who's being pursued by the enemy, as it slows all enemies within a certain radius. This gives your lucky ally a chance to get away. And if you have an observant and attentive team, it keeps them in place long enough for them to set up a reactive gank, turning the encounter into one that's profitable for your team. Ao Kuang's second ability is Slither. It gives you an increase in your movement speed, as well as a smaller stacking increase for each enemy that's within 20 feet. Slither is really great for escaping, especially when multiple people are trying to attack you, because of the additional speed increase that each enemy provides. Slither is also well used for chasing down enemies, because while there may only be one or maybe multiple enemies that you're trying to capture, the additional speed increase will get you right up to them. Slither has a relatively short cooldown and a small mana cost, so don't be afraid to use it to run back to your turret when you suspect someone's about to jump out of the jungle and get you. It's better to play safe. Ao Kuang's third ability is Tornadoes. It puts a large circle on the ground that all enemies that pass through it are afflicted with a heavy damage over time effect. When paired up with Squall, the slowing effect of the ability will make them stay in your storm longer, making your dot last longer and thus making you do more damage. When the player fully purchases Gem of Isolation, Tornadoes provides you with some escapability. How this is achieved is you place a tornado directly on top of you while running away. All the enemies that pass through it in pursuit of you are slowed down. Tornadoes also allows you to clear a full mob of creeps. As each creep passes through the storm, they will all become affected with the dot, which will wear away at their health and swiftly kill them. Because of this, it makes Ao Kuang very powerful in the middle lane, while most middlers have to use 2 or more abilities to clear a full mob of creeps. This not only makes you more mana efficient, but more time efficient because you only have to use 1 ability. Ao Kuang's fourth and final ability is called Spirit's Tempest. It's a long-range skill shot that projects the dragon forward. Anyone who's caught in the blast radius is dealt extremely heavy damage and thrown upward. When aiming Spirit's Tempest, it's best to try and predict when the enemy is going to move and what direction they're going to move in. Don't expect to be hitting every Spirit's Tempest right away, the skill comes in time, and there are times when you just cannot predict where the enemy is going to move. The most optimal time to use it is to send it straight through a team fight. Enemy players won't hear the sound of its activation over the other sounds of other abilities, and during the fight enemies will be at much lower health, allowing your dragon to just swiftly clean them up. As powerful as Spirit's Tempest is, there's a small delay in its activation time, so be sure to place your shot wisely. Spirit Tempest is also very effective to make running away a profitable situation. How this is done is that you quickly turn Ao Kuang around while running. This will make your enemy bound to run into Spirit's Tempest, and if you've given him a good fight before, it should quickly finish him off. Now let's take a look at a middler's lane duel. Russ starts off using his slow, so it makes it substantially easier to line up skill shots. Unfortunately, he goes back playing it safe and running back into his turret. Then pressing the advantage of having a mob of minions at his back, he sets up a great skill shot that I mistakenly run into. I run back to get a better position, noticing that he's using his slow, probably to set up his ultimate. Assuming he would use his ultimate, I move to the side during the blind duration in order to dodge it. I try to press the advantage of him moving backwards by placing a storm behind him, but unfortunately plants the healing circle on me with the same idea. With my core damaging abilities on cooldown, I try to line up a good ultimate because that would turn the tide of this fight. Though slow again, I try to back up onto him because it's a lot easier to get a close range ultimate than one sniping from a distance. Though activating it too early, it becomes completely invalid, missing the target. To try to cancel out his healing circle, I plant the storm within, successfully applying the dot stacks to him. This brings him to a critically low health, in which I land a Squall afterwards and finish him off with an auto attack. Now let's move into what I use for my build order. As I said earlier, I buy 3 stacks of Chronos Pendant first. The magic power helps out, as well as the MP5 is sufficient to replace the Meditate in the very early game, allowing you to spend your money elsewhere. The cooldown reduction is also a nice touch, which allows you to plant more storms very quickly. Next up, I buy full Boots of the Magi because the movement speed is very useful being a caster. It gets you out of tight situations, as well as the magic power increasing the damage of your abilities. Boots are essential to almost any build and should always generally be built first. But I make an exception for this build because Chronos Pendant has obvious early gain benefits. Next, I buy 3 Gem of Isolation because the slowing effect helps give you more escapability, as well as also slowing down people that you're trying to gank. Another benefit to having Gem of Isolation also makes your Tornado a slowing ability, which is vital for escapability and also a huge bonus in team fights, which slows all the enemies that are caught in the circle and helps your allies line up their skill shots like most slows. Next, if the team is particularly magic heavy, I buy Void Stone. The magical protection adds some survivability, as well as the magic power adds to the damage of your abilities. When fully purchased, it also lowers the magical resistances of your enemies, which further increases your abilities' damage, as well as increasing the damage of your fellow mages. Next, I buy Rara Tahuti. Not only does it give you increased magical power from its base stats, when fully purchased, it also increases all the magical power that your other items give you by 25%. Next, generally, I buy Book of Thoth. Because of Ao Kuang's passive, he gains magical power based on the mana he has. Book of Thoth gives you an increased amount of mana, as well as giving you an obscene amount of magical power and MP5. Next item I buy is Pythagorum's Peace, because as stated before, because of Ao Kuang's passive, the increased mana also helps my damage. Not to mention that Pythagorum's Peace provides a substantial amount of magical power on its own. Another added bonus is whenever fully purchased, it gives you an aura that increases the magical power of your allies. Now let's take a look at the abilities I normally buy. Let's start off by saying Purification Beads. It is a rare player that doesn't actually buy Purification Beads at some point in the game, because this is an extremely vital item that gets you out of stuns and CCs such as Anubis's Cocoon, or Artemis's Boar. The second ability I buy, depending on the situation, is Aegis Amulet. What it does is provide you immunity to damage from all sources for 3 seconds, but makes you unable to move or attack. Aegis Amulet becomes really effective when used in accordance with Purification Beads when trying to stop Anubis's, say, ult combo, where Ao Kuang breaks out of the stun and becomes immune to damage for 3 seconds while Anubis uses all of his burst abilities. If you feel like you're going to play particularly offensive, I would buy Creeping Curse, because it slows enemies in a large radius, allowing you to catch up with escaping enemies, and allows you to set up your ult with ease. It's also very important to control enemy movement during a team fight. That's it for Ao Kuang, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my previous guide on Ymir, father of the Frost Giants.